Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Tonight's show is a debate. We'll hear from the candidates running for the U.S. House of Representatives in Arizona's Congressional District 3. As with all of Horizon's debates, this is not a formal exercise. It's an open exchange of ideas, an opportunity for give and take between candidates for one of the state's most important offices. As such, interjections and even interruptions are allowed, provided that all sides get a fair shake, and we'll do our best to see that that happens. The candidates running for Congress in CD3 are, in alphabetical order, Democrat Jon Hulburd, an attorney and former businessman, Republican Ben Quayle, an attorney and small business owner, and Libertarian Michael Shoen, a former prosecuting attorney. Each candidate will have 1 minute for opening and closing statements. Earlier, we drew numbers to see who goes first, and that honor goes to Jon Hulburd.
Thank you. This debate here is as important as this election, and the reason is because this is our only televised debate. It's the only one that Ben Quayle would agree to with me. And so I thought I'd take my precious minute to ask two specific questions to Ben, and hopefully in the next 25 minutes get answers to those questions that the voters have. So Ben, question number one is, can the voters trust you to go back and right our economic ship in these hard economic times when you can't even calculate the federal budget? Your own ad and what you've been telling the voters, you're off by $11 trillion. Question two involves dirtyscottsdale.com. And the question is, can the voters trust your judgment to be a congressman when you've admitted that you posted comments on dirtyscottsdale.com as little as 3 years ago, and that you, in your own words, did it to drive traffic? I think people want to know why you drove traffic to that website.
All right, thank you very much. And now Ben Quayle has 1 minute for an opening statement.
Thank you, Ted, and thank you to Channel 8 for providing us this opportunity. And thank you to all of you back home for watching, because it's very important to learn about the candidates in this congressional race, because this race is extraordinarily pivotal. In fact, it could be one of the most important midterm elections that we've had in our nation's history. And that's because the Democrats in Washington have been taking our country in the wrong direction. The Democrats have been going after policies and initiatives that will weaken our country going forward and make our future less bright. You know, our government is off course, and it's up to the American citizens to correct it, because Washington has been bearing down on us. You have Obamacare, you have border chaos and lawsuits against Arizona, you have massive deficits and debt spending, and what do we have? We have an administration that doesn't get us any jobs. So that's what I want to fight for, Arizona, is to fight for hard-working Americans and get people working again.
All right, thank you very much. And finally, with his 1 minute opening statement is Michael Shoen.
Thank you, Ted. Good evening. Over the past 60 years, Republicans and Democrats have been exporting our high-paying manufacturing jobs overseas and replacing those lost jobs with government jobs, with war, and with financial industry shell games. All these things floating in a sea of low-paying service industry jobs. Tax cuts aren't going to bring new manufacturing, high-paying jobs to this country. Over the past 60 years, manufacturing jobs as a percentage of all our jobs have decreased from 39% right down this line down to 9% today. In spite of tax cuts, in spite of tax credits, in spite of all sorts of financial gimmicks. What will make manufacturing come to this country is investment in infrastructure, investment in education, and investment in fundamental research, and I can do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, gentlemen, let's get it started. I want to start with a basic thing here, because especially you two, critics on both sides have been asking this. Why are you qualified to be a member of Congress? Because people haven't really heard much about either one of you before this race. Why are you qualified?
No, it's a fair question. It's brand new blood here and an open seat, you're right, for the first time in 16 years. Honestly, I'm not sure I am. I mean, I think I am, and I'm humbly asking the voters to check out my qualifications. But I'm not sure. We're brand new. I've never run for office before, nor has Ben. What I tell folks is to look at kind of three different things for me. Look at my legal experience, my business experience, and my community experience. And I also even throw in kind of my social experience. In other words, father of five for me, lived in the Valley for a couple of decades. And I think, I was a lawyer here for a number of years, a total of 9 years, partner at Fenimore Craig. I was a small business owner also for about a 9-year period of my life. I've also been extremely busy in the community. I currently sit on the boards over at Phoenix Children's Hospital and a great little school in Scottsdale for kids with learning differences called New Way Learning Academy, and others.
Okay, Ben, same question. Why are you qualified to be a member of Congress?
Well, because I'm the only one who's going to go to Washington and fight to get government on the side of the people. I mean, that's what's happening right now. Power is being consolidated in Washington, D.C. right now, as Democrats have been able to expand government into more of our everyday lives, taking over large portions of our economy with the health care bill that went forth, and also expanding government spending. That's what we need in Washington, is somebody who's going to go there and fight to reduce government spending, to actually get some certainty back to the marketplace so that companies can start taking risks, start hiring people, start growing the economy. I think that watching what has happened over the last year and a half is some of the best experience that anybody could see, because that has actually shown where government's going if we don't put a stop and put the brakes on it.
And we'll certainly get back to economic issues in a second here, but Mike, I'd ask you, you qualified for this?
Sure I am. I was practicing attorney doing litigation for 20 years. I worked as corporate general counsel. I have my own successful small business that's a little bit smaller now. I worked as a young man in all sorts of manufacturing and labor jobs. And I was privileged to work with the legendary entrepreneur, my father, for a long time. So I believe in private enterprise. And since 2002, I've been publicly involved in public issues. I didn't just start a year ago.
Okay. Similar question regarding background, but let's get back to your opening statement. And you brought it up in the opening statement. Let's get right to it. You've gone after Ben Quayle regarding this website and his involvement, and I want to get your response to this and how you feel about this. But why are you pressing that particular issue?
Well, for one thing, we inherited it from the Republicans in their primary without answers. And so we've picked up where they've left off, and we still have no answers. I've given him a very specific question here, which I don't think he can move around, which is, why would you drive anyone to this website? What would be the reason for that? I mean, if I was, maybe because they're friends or because you got an ownership interest or whatever, but this was 3 years ago. I think people need to understand the character of the candidates. McCain said it, character matters. It matters in this race. It matters in all races. So it's an open question, and it has not been answered.
Please.
I have answered questions on this for 2 months, and I've been candid, I've been forthright, and in fact, it's been coming out now because that some of the reporters who initially reported on it are now saying, yes, he has been candid and has been truthful the entire time. Now, I regret any association with this website, but you know, John, if you start bringing up the past, I mean, we can go down that route. I've been vetted thoroughly during the Republican primary. And you can talk about things that you've done in the past. I mean, you were sued for defamation and you were sued for fraud. So these are the things that you need to be asked questions about, because you haven't gone through the same sort of vetting process that I have. But you keep going down. You've been negative even before I got out of the primary.
So is that an answer? Have you given me an answer yet?
I mean, this is what I'm trying to get to. You've been going negative since before I even got out of the primary. I've answered these questions over and over
Answer
and
one
over.
word. Why? Why drive someone to that
any
website?
association with this website, John. And I want you to start to answer some of those questions. Why you were sued for defamation? Why were you sued for fraud? These are the things that people
I was never sued for fraud.
Business fraud, really? You were never sued for business fraud?
I personally was never sued for fraud.
You weren't named in a lawsuit for business fraud in 1999.
My company was, absolutely.
You weren't a named plaintiff.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. Do you understand what happened in both of those cases? They were both dismissed with prejudice at the instant early level, and they were also in the defamation claim. It came up to the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court of the state, and it was also dismissed with prejudice.
But why were they dismissed? It didn't go through the proper trial. I mean, that's the thing that I'm trying to get to, John, is you've gone negative and you've been using a lot of...
Let's get your response quickly, then I want to get your response quickly, and then we've got to get to issues here, like the economy and the war and these sorts of things.
The defamation lawsuit was a nuisance lawsuit brought amongst many, many people, of which I was one. It was tossed out at the trial level, affirmed at the Court of Appeals level, tossed out also at the Supreme Court level. They didn't grant cert. And that particular lawyer isn't even practicing. He's been disbarred. So it's a joke lawsuit from a number of years ago.
It was thrown out because of statute of limitations, correct?
No, it was thrown out it was dismissed with prejudice, no technicalities.
Okay, very quickly. I want to get back to this. I want to get to the economy in a second here, but quickly. He regrets the website. Why isn't that good enough?
I want to know why he drove people there. I want to know why would someone go to that website. Why would you want someone to do that?
You brought up cases against either he or his firm. Why isn't it good enough to know that they were dismissed?
Well, here's the thing, is that what we've had one level of scrutiny for me and another level of scrutiny for other people. And so I think that every candidate should be going through that level of scrutiny. That's the thing that's been happening in this race, is that Jon has been going negative since day one, even before I got out of the primary, and has been running ads that are not truthful. And it's really distasteful to have that as
Completely truthful.
Oh, that is a complete and utter lie, because I can go just off the top of my head, Jon, is that you're saying that I said that I was claiming children in a mailer that were not mine. A, they were my nieces, and there was never any claim in that mailer that they were my children. Actually, the mailer said that I live with my wife and my dog in Phoenix. So that is the first blatant lie in that.
Very quickly, I have to let you respond to that. Blatant lie.
Absolutely not. You were attacked by a number of your opponents along those same lines because you guys played that up and you got a little cute and you got caught.
Just because somebody else says it doesn't make it true, Jon.
I want to get to Mike here. What do you make of all this?
I'd like to say that I was also sued for defamation, but I defended it myself and I won. A very aggressively pursued case related to it.
Okay. All right.
Really,
I want to start with you then on this one. We got 7-some-odd million people without jobs in this country. Arizona is hurting right now as much as any state in the union. What do you do?
we also have 40 million people are below the poverty line. We also have a shrinking middle class. We also have an enriching top class. Upper class, what we have to do is what I talked about. You have to get manufacturing jobs in this country. That's what pays $25, $30 an hour. You can't live on service industry jobs at $10 an hour. You got to live at home with your parents. You can't support a family. And the figures show that's what's happening. We kissed off our manufacturing jobs decades ago, and we have to, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, and whoever else, have to work together to get this done.
Ben, get people back to work. How?
The key is bringing certainty back to the marketplace. Right now, companies, both large and small, if they've been able to streamline their businesses, they're actually sitting on some cash, but they're scared to take the risks to actually expand their businesses and to grow their companies. And that's because of the initiatives that are being pursued in Washington. The health care bill is going to have a negative impact on our economy. And if you look at the massive tax increases that are going to happen at this end of this year, plus things like getting rid of the secret ballot for in the workplace, and also cap and trade legislation, those are things that are making the marketplace uncertain. And if we bring back certainty in the marketplace, then jobs will start being created.
A jittery private sector because of President Obama's policies. Your response?
I think that's partially true. I think he inherited worse than a jittery one. I do think that he could do something very quickly to right the ship, and that's to extend those Bush tax cuts at least through 2012, make permanent the cuts on dividends and on capital gains. And I think what we could also do is really emphasize green, clean energy jobs out here in Arizona. I think that's a long-term path of getting those jobs back right here in Phoenix.
Extending the tax cut, why not a modest increase for the very top of income earners? It doesn't have to be the 200, 250 that we've heard before. Why not make it 500,000? Why not hit the level at 1 million? Why not get some of that revenue back in the system?
You know, I'm a simple guy. I think we're still in a recession. I don't care what the pros say. Anyone out here in Arizona thinks we are. Don't raise taxes in a recession.
What do you make of that? The idea of maybe a modest proposal above the 200, 250 we're hearing about right now?
We need a tax policy that actually doesn't provide a disincentive for people to invest, for people to actually succeed. So actually what we are having right now at the end of this year is a massive tax increase. We need to have that tax code actually made permanent so that we can make the certainty come back to the marketplace and give people, small businesses especially, telling them we're not going to raise their taxes even in 2 years, because that's just going to increase the uncertainty going forward.
But there are some who are saying that firms right now, you mentioned the extra cash, they've got the extra cash, and instead of investing, what they're investing as far as jobs are concerned, they're buying back shares. They're propping up share prices and these sorts of things. How do you respond to that?
Well, the thing that they're doing is they want to do something that, with their money, to actually put it to work. They don't want to actually expand their businesses or hire new people because that's expensive, and they don't know where their costs are going to be going forward. With the uncertainty that we have with the tax increases that are going to happen at the end of this year, plus the threat of those other initiatives that are supported by the Democrats in Congress, that's the thing that's holding our economy from actually having some robust recovery.
Mike?
On September 16th, Alan Greenspan, the former chairman of the Federal Reserve, testified that you cannot cut taxes on borrowed money. We're already running a real good deficit. We inherited a major deficit from the previous administration, and my two opponents want to cut taxes dramatically to increase that deficit. Our country is on the chopping block. All these other countries around the world are just waiting for our deficit to get so bad that our financial house of cards starts to fall apart. So that's what the dollar as reserve currency is all about. So we have to cut expenditures, okay, right now, and try and get expenditures in line with taxes, not cut taxes.
Okay, John, TARP, the bank bailout, however you want to describe it, good move?
No, terrible move. Free money. Look at what happened. Bush goes and tells Hank Paulson, go give these guys essentially free money, 5% preferred shares. Just a couple of weeks later, Warren Buffett cuts twice as good a deal for his own shareholders. So right there, the marketplace was skewed. All it did was bail out the big banks and made it so that they were just going to be bigger. So I think it was a disaster.
Was it a smarter idea to let the fire burn itself out? Because we're going back a couple of years now to when most people in Congress were hearing some pretty wild stories about how things could just fall in a moment's notice.
I realize that, and we're going to have history books tell us in 10 or 20 years with a little clearer vision. But to most people I talk to, and this is me, it feels like the rich people got bailed out on the Titanic and everyone else got basically tossed. So Main Street got burned in this transaction. And think about those bonuses that were just announced yesterday. What do you think people think on Main Street right now?
What do you think about the idea of letting the fire burn itself out as opposed to doing something proactive?
Well, TARP was not the right policy to go forward. What we wanted to be able to show the American people that the market was not going to collapse. TARP was not the way to go about it because they were injecting capital into banks that actually weren't that much in trouble. What we needed to do was just have some confidence from the FDIC, from is one instance, where we could have confidence in the marketplace so there wouldn't be the systemic failure that people were worried about. TARP was the wrong way to go, and we shouldn't have gone down that road because the moral hazard that we'll have going forward.
Please.
Can I jump in for a second? Here's the problem, though. I think we're both saying the same thing on policy. I wonder who would have had the guts to do it, to say no to TARP. Remember, at the time, just 2 years ago, everyone was on their knees begging. Ben's money is coming from Wall Street. It's coming, his largest contributor is Cerberus Capital, the folks that brought us, the executives in Cerberus, and the folks that brought us the Chrysler bailout. Right after the bank bailout, we got the auto bailout. And in both cases, Ben, I think it would be very, very tough for you to say no to your biggest contributors. That's what they wanted.
My contributors are individuals who care about this nation and care about the direction that our countries are going in. But I'm glad he brought that up. I'm glad he brought up the contributions because he has been funded and endorsed by the labor unions, SEIU, the radical unions that have been boycotting our state, that are against SB 1070, and he's also been financially endorsed by Nancy Pelosi. So those are the things. If you want to get into the amount of contributions, I was against TARP. I'm against those bailouts, and I would stand up for that if elected to Congress because I'm my own man. It doesn't matter where any contributions come from.
Respond quickly.
And obviously, I'm on record as being pro 1070 against the boycott. And so, using your logic, if you want to give back your 80,000 plus to Cerberus, I'll give back the 10,000 to the union that you're so worked up about it. Deal?
Well, John, this is what you're trying to do: is that you throw something out at me, and then I throw it back at you, and you don't really like the back and forth. Look, the people who have contributed to my campaign are concerned about the direction of the country because we're running for a federal office, and these laws that we're going to be voting on are going to be affecting people across the spectrum and across the nation.
Mike?
Ted, thank you. What happened with the bailout was we took financial institutions that were greedy and that were reckless and really did some things that were wrong when they separated the deed of trust from the debt. And then when they did all this misconduct, we said, hey, that's okay, we'll take care of you. And the message to them is this for the next time around. No matter what they do, how greedy they are in the future, how reckless they are in the future, we're going to bail them out. So we gave them a terrible message, and they'll follow up on that.
Okay.
And as with respect to the character and ability to stand up to these guys, I'm Ron Paul all the way. And Ron Paul is the only congressman who has never never ever voted for a tax increase, ever.
We got a couple of minutes left. I want to get your ideas on immigration reform. Ben, we'll start with you on this. Immigration reform, is it needed? How do you do it?
Well, the first thing that we have to focus on is border security. That's the first step.
What does that mean, though? I hear that a lot, border. What does it mean, and how long is that going to take?
Well, it's going to be a process. We need to have a barrier from the Pacific to the Gulf, whether it's fencing and electronic barriers, but also increasing the number of Border Patrol agents. And until the meantime, while the Border Patrol agents are getting trained, we need to have National Guard down at the border, because this is a serious problem that we have that's going on with the drug cartels, and Arizona has become a funnel for drug smuggling into the United States. The drug cartels are destabilizing the Mexican government, and the amount of violence and the sophistication of their violence is escalating at a rapid pace. So that's the first thing we need to do, and we shouldn't be talking about any of the other portions of immigration reform until we secure the border, because that's the source of the problem.
Okay. What do you think?
I agree with Ben on everything he said until that last phrase at the end, and he's actually made the mistake of going beyond that. I do think we need to secure the border. I think we can have operational control over our border, but we shouldn't be out there dabbling in other pieces of the comprehensive immigration reform package until it's done. And he wants to deal with the guest worker program. He's been on record as telling folks that he wants to do that. I think that's a big mistake. I think we must hold firm as a state, as representatives of the state, and say we will not do anything else until we know for a fact that our border is secure.
You got about 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm on record for saying the guest worker program after our border is secured. So that's a big difference between what Jon just said and what's actual.
But it's not, because now you're in the for over 2 decades we've been held hostage on this because everyone wants their piece of the pie on this thing, and you can and must take out the border security piece and get it done, and everything else needs to go away until that's done.
That's what I just said. I think it should be an independent bill in Congress, standalone bill on border security. Once that's happened, then we can address the other issues.
We've got to stop it right there. Each candidate will now give a 1-minute closing statement, and going in reverse order of the opening statements, we start with Michael Shoen.
Thank you. My worthy opponents both want to cut taxes substantially, and what I demonstrated here, which is from the Bureau, from a government agency, is that you can cut taxes for 60 years and it's not going to change the outflow of the good jobs, manufacturing jobs. If we cut taxes or stimulus in this country with our present distribution and we have most of our jobs are service economy jobs, we're going to be stimulating jobs where people are working at $10 an hour. You get more people serving lattes at Starbucks. Our primary problem today is economic prosperity. If we have money, we can do a lot of things. If we don't have money, we're really hamstrung, and we have to create economic prosperity.
All right, thank you very much. And next up with a 1-minute closing statement is Ben Quayle.
Thank you very much. One issue that we did not address in this debate was health care reform. Now, I want to repeal and replace Obamacare with something that actually bends the cost curve down and gets access up. My Democratic opponent can't even answer if he would actually have voted for the health care bill if he was in Congress at that time. It's a huge issue because it comes down to the fundamental beliefs of what our government should and shouldn't be doing. We need to get back to the founding principles of our country: freedom and limited government. That health care bill is an example of government run amok. If we can actually get a Congress that will start to shrink the size of the federal government, shrink our national debt, which is over $13 trillion, then we can have opportunities for the next generations and future generations that were the same, if not better, than the past generations. So I thank you very much, and I hope to get your vote on Election Day. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we hear from Jon Hulburd.
Repealing Obamacare, as Ben would call it, or the Health Care Reform Act, is essentially a fairy tale that he likes to tell. It'll only happen if he gets a new House, and he might. But he's going to also need a new Senate. He's going to need a supermajority of the Senate, and he's going to need a new White House. So it's a couple of years off. And instead what's going to happen, whether he gets elected or I get elected, is we're going to go back and act like legislators. We're going to deal with a bill that'll be in place at that point for 3 or 4 years. I asked Ben whether or not he's going to kick those kids off the rolls. There'll be millions of them by then, who, because of a pre-existing condition, would normally not be able to get health care insurance but will under this new bill. There are parts of the bill I like. That's one of them. I will fight to keep that. There are parts of the bill I do not like at all. I don't like the fact that in just a short period of time, 2013, we're going to have a 3.8% tax on unearned income. I will fight to get that out. It's a fairy tale. It won't happen. Elect someone who will deal with this as a adult. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, candidates, and thank you for watching this special edition of Horizon. For more information about the candidates and the issues, and to replay video of this and other Horizon debates, be sure to visit Horizon's Vote 2010 website at azpbs.org/vote2010. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening. Oh, man.
Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.